Welcome everyone at a new episode of Human Hearts, Silicon Minds. Today we're going to talk with Patrick and he will explain us more how he and his team inspires thousands or millions of developers to build the next AI tool. Thank you for joining us, Patrick, here today in the Microsoft San Francisco office. We're glad to be invited here and to talk with you today. Could you please introduce yourself?
Sure, and thanks for coming. You're coming on a beautiful day. Hi, I'm Patrick Chanezon. I manage the cloud advocacy team at Microsoft. It's a team of technical experts in all of the different areas that cover Microsoft Cloud. And our goal is to advocate on behalf of different tech communities, like, for example, the AI tech community or JavaScript or Java, inside of Microsoft to make the products better, to make the products a better fit for them, and then advocate to them to explain all the things they can build with Microsoft Cloud. And nowadays, it's a pretty exciting role with the wave of AI that's on us. There's lots of new things that are possible to do.
Yeah. Well, today we want to talk a little bit more about AI. We're not going to talk about all the other aspects that you work on. How has AI impacted your own personal life?
Yeah, so in terms of personal life, I'm a user of all of Microsoft products as I use them at home. So in my personal life, I'd say Bing Chat is probably the one that I've been using the most. So in there, I'm using it to summarize searches when I want to travel or to create images and things like that. So there's a lot, they constantly added features into Bing, and it really changes the search experience. And I used to be a big user of Google because I used to work there in the past. And now I find myself like spending more time in Bing and interacting with that new mode of search.
Now, this is more in your personal life. How do you see AI impact the workplace?
Oh yeah, so workplace at Microsoft, we've been lucky because Microsoft is very advanced in the use of AI internally. The first use that we've had in my team and I think at Microsoft overall is GitHub Copilot. Many people in my team are developers. I'm a developer myself, and GitHub Copilot was the first of Microsoft product line of copilots. You've seen many of these. That was built, and that's the first one I've used. And to me, so my main languages are Python and Java, and Copilot is really good there. I think in average it generates 46% of your code for you, and that's kind of what I've seen in my own practice. It's really magic. You start the name of a function, you press tab, it proposes you something. You can tweak it with the chat mode now. You can interact with it. It can generate tests and things like that. So I'd say this was the first one that I've used. More recently, with Azure OpenAI and the fact that it's available internally and that we can use it, it's more about building applications, using ChatGPT internally with Azure OpenAI. And there's lots of things that we can build with that.
Yeah, I think, as you said, as a developer, it can really speed up your process. And I think GitHub Copilot now also became general available.
Yeah, so GitHub Copilot.
A couple of days ago, I think, so that's quite nice.
Yeah.
Now, this is more to, let's say, the white-collar workers. How do you think AI will impact the people who are working, for example, in manufactories?
Yeah, so I think there's lots of opportunities. These large language models, they really started to have interesting properties where you can apply them to many different use cases. Last year with ChatGPT and with the GPT 3.5 model. And I think, frankly, the next 10 years for our profession in software will be about helping productivity in different areas of human endeavor in every area. So the first areas that were touched were for developers, because that's what the people who are building these tools, that's what they know, and they know how to automate and how to help make more productive. Then the white collar areas, so there's the M365 Copilot that really helps you in Word and Excel and all the different productivity tools. But I think for other type of roles, there will also be a lot of opportunities for AI to help. Things like the fact that especially large language models are becoming multimodal now. I think it will be on the horizon for next year, some of the big advances in there. And so that means that they'll be able to hear, they'll be able to speak, they'll be able to watch. And that means lots of different use cases in the real world where people interact with things. And so I don't know what the exact use cases will be, but I'm pretty sure it will touch every industry.
Okay. Well, and as you said, these models are getting smarter. We notice that Hollywood also scares us with all kinds of movies about superintelligence and singularity. Do we need to be scared?
So personally, I'm not very scared. I've been giving a talk about this for the past 10 years. So before the current wave of AI started, where I talked a little bit about the singularity. So to me, it makes for great science fiction. I don't know if you know the book Accelerando by Charlie Strauss. He's one of my favorite sci-fi author, and I was raised like reading Asimov and science fiction authors that were predicting smart machines and robots you can talk to, and that's kind of what I dreamed about when I was a kid. But the notion of singularity, where machines become so smart that it accelerates, they code themselves, and they just escape from humans. I don't believe in that at all. I think it's a lot of fear, irrational fears. On my side, I think that computers are tools and we're the ones programming them. So I'm pretty confident in the fact that we're going to put some controls around these tools. We're going to take security seriously. There's this whole field around responsible AI that's about that. And so I'm pretty confident that that the tools will not run amok and that we will build the right tooling for that. Now, for the exponential aspect of the singularity and people who believe in that, I consider that more like a cult. I don't really believe in it. There was really a really good article by Ted Chiang, who's one of my other favorite sci-fi author, in the New Yorker, where he compared large language models to a compiler, where if you build a compiler for a language and you use it to compile itself in the language, you may have some gains in efficiency, but that's it. There's a limit to that. And so large language models creating new software by themselves without human input, I'm not completely bought in. And to me, the art of building software is so difficult. Making software that works well still requires a lot of work. I'm more of the belief that these artificial intelligence models are going to be used to make humans more productive. And that's the approach that Microsoft has with the copilots. So I strongly believe into that direction more than the Hollywood like kind of fears. So I love these Hollywood movies and the books that come out of it, but I don't believe in it very seriously in terms of like the doom that all these technologies could bring.
Of course. It's, I think, linked to that also how, for example, GitHub Copilot, it really assists software developers to build tools where you have those little drawings of like, okay, GitHub Copilot, they will take over the job as a software developer. No, because business users still cannot explain what needs to be built. So that's still bringing an issue.
To me, software development is essentially a communications activity. It's really about understanding what people need, in the best case, anticipating what they need, and then building something around it. And so it's all rooted into humans and human activity. One of my favorite essays by Donald Knuth was called Literate Programming. I don't know if you've read this. It's an essay that he wrote where he explains that programming is really about explaining to other humans what you're doing, and a side effect of it is that there's a machine that's executing it. And so he considered literate programming, the approach that he was defending in there, was about providing tools to put your program in a form that could be readable by a human. And it gave birth to tools like, for example, Java docs and things, automatic documentation for your programs. But to me, the approach behind it is really about the fact that programming is a communications activity. And I know that in all my career, as a programmer, I always try to automate myself out of a job so that I can focus on the higher layer of abstraction where the interesting work is happening. And today, if you look at the work of a programmer, there's still lots of technical details like deep in the guts of the machine that you need to worry about. So we're not there yet into just having programming like being done only in natural language, but with large language models and things like a GitHub Copilot chat mode, we're getting closer to that. And that's what interests me in there. I think it will be really a boon for developers. These tools like really change the game there.
Well, for now we see that all this technology is mostly used by technical people. I think for people, just the common people who are not really in tech, they also will need to start making use of it, but it's a progress that needs to grow, and also for them to be able to trust what is actually happening. How can we make sure the common people understand actually what is happening behind the scenes?
Yeah. So there are two aspects in your question. One of them is about regular people, not technical, using AI. And there, to me, this is where the biggest opportunity is. So there's a whole group at Microsoft working on what is called low-code tools. It's called Power Platform. The potential of leveraging AI into those low-code tools, to me, is the biggest. Low-code tools plus things like the M365 Copilot, who are embedded into our productivity tools. Because these tools are used by people every day. You don't need to be very technical to use them. And I think AI and the large language models are really going to help make these tools more effective into having people interact with them in natural language. So natural language becomes the programming language, not only for developers, but also for regular people who in the past had to learn some technical aspect to be able to build their own apps. Now they'll be able to build their own apps by talking to the computer. So there's this aspect that, to me, there's lots of a huge potential for impact, for changing people's lives and how they interact with computers every day. The second aspect on trust is very important because this one is, you alluded about the Hollywood type of scenarios that people have fears about the models and all that. I think it's important for these tools to be transparent. So there's this approach called responsible AI, where you want your models to be transparent. You want people to have trust in the models. So you need to show how the models are working, explain how they've been trained, and have people have a good grasp about how they work. And so that's that whole field of responsible AI. And I think there's a lot of work to be done in that area. It's a nascent area. There are already some tools. So at Microsoft, we're building some tools in Azure to help you make your applications more responsible. But I think this is an area where there still needs to be a lot of research and work. And this is very important to develop that as we build AI into every tool that we are making.
Okay. Now, Microsoft works on building responsible AI. We see that certain governmental institutes or just governments on itself are trying to build some regulation or legislation about AI, like the EU AI Act. Do you think that will help also in building safe AI applications?
For sure. And we've seen that government had a lot of interest in this technology. And I think it's very healthy that governments are part of the conversation. And I know that my colleagues at Microsoft have contributed to helping governments understand how AI works. And I think the company is really about partnering with governments in order to create regulation that makes sense for AI. So on my side, I'm pretty much in favor of having governments have an opinion and look at this space that is evolving very quickly. It's pretty much like when the internet was invented or when the web started taking off in the 90s, where there's always faster adoption by people than governments take to respond there. And what I found pretty hopeful is that many governments took a serious look at this very quickly and are really engaging with the technologists to make sure that we build systems that are acceptable for everyone.
I think also the difference is in the past, the speed of development was already fast, but now it's just exponential. So it's much harder to keep up and bringing good legislation for it.
It's definitely crazy. The past year has been really accelerating. If you're in that field, there's at least 5 important papers published every week on this topic, and it's really hard to keep track and to keep in the loop and read everything.
What do you expect the next coming 6 months?
So I'd say what I've seen as important trends. So right now we're in that phase where it's been a year that ChatGPT was released. I think it was November, more than a year ago, like a year and 2 months. And now every industry, people in every industry are looking at this and saying, what do we do with it? And so we're in the phase where people are either starting prototypes or they had prototypes and they're starting pilot projects to start to apply this into their area. And so what that means is that lots of people are going to start putting these models in production. And so there's a whole aspect around what is the workflow for an application that uses large language models? What do you need in order to make it responsible? So you need some responsible AI services. In order to serve it, there's a whole serving stack that needs to exist. For building the apps themselves, there are lots of different frameworks. So I'd expect there will continue to be many research and evolution into all that platform that needs to mature. And then at the level of the languages themselves, the language models themselves, there are a few areas where, for example, improvements into how do you measure the quality of their output, how do you build models that are smaller? There's been an interesting one released by Microsoft Research a while ago called Phi that is smaller. So how do you make these models smaller but with the same level of quality in order to be able to serve them in different environments? I expect that in the next year we'll probably see models that are easy to serve on smaller devices like your phone or your laptop. So making these models local. And then there's the multimodal models. So these ones are really fascinating, where you start to bring to these models the ability to listen to people, to watch, and as well as generate images, movies, and interact into many different modalities. There's been a few interesting ones from Facebook as well in the area of music. So these are kind of the big areas that I've seen. And then there's one other aspect that I hope there will be more improvement and research and products and maybe projects, which is about how do you understandable AI? How do you build models that are where you can understand how they came to a conclusion? Visualization of existing models. So I've played with some tools that help you visualize how these tools how the models work. And I think there's a lot of work that needs to go into that layer of the stack as well. So I'd say we're at a critical period where we're building a new stack that's around AI to build AI powered apps. And as technologists, there are many, many areas where there will be changes and where there are things to be invented.
So we're looking forward to bringing more stuff into production, having more stable infrastructure for it also, technical codes or frameworks and so on, like semantic kernel, LangChain and so on. They've been changing so much the last couple of months. Every time you want to build something, I need to change my code again. So that's quite interesting. Now, what advice would you give anyone who wants to start in the AI space?
So I'd say start playing with it. Start with a small application. If you're technical, if you're a developer. So I'll start with a non-developer example maybe. If you're a non-developer, you're interested in it, I'd say start using the tools. At Microsoft, actually, we have a framework for that, which is, hey, first you adopt our copilots. Then if it doesn't satisfy your use case, you extend them. And then if it still doesn't satisfy your use case, you can build your own. And we're providing the tooling for the whole chain. So I'd say if you're a non-developer, start adopting some of the Copilot, start using these tools, use DALL-E, use Bing Chat, use ChatGPT. And start interacting with it. There's a lot. There's a learning curve into how to learn to prompt these chatbots and to get some results. And I've seen some amazing things that I've learned from people who are sharing their tips and tricks. Like for example, one person who was providing an existing picture to the tool. The language model would generate a long description out of it, and then he would leverage that description as a prompt into DALL-E in order to generate a new image with a different topic, but with the same style. I wouldn't have thought about that. There's lots of tips like that to learn and exchange. So I'd say participate into a community like the global AI community is a good one. Just join a community, exchange your ideas with people, because this is really like a shared learning moment that we're in, and adopt some of these products. If you're a developer, I'd say start coding. Just take one of our samples. In my team, we're creating samples in many different languages, whether you're in JavaScript, Python, Java or .NET, you'll find a sample on Azure documentation, and it's about how to implement retrieval augmented generation with Azure services. You can literally get started in 10 minutes. You just start a code space, you do AZD up, and you have something up and running in 10 minutes. And then look at the code, start tweaking it, start changing the prompts, and then start changing the samples so that they fit your use case. And it's kind of easy to get started with. Really, these AI models now, you don't need to be an AI expert to use them. I think there's a new discipline that's being created that's called AI engineering. And AI engineering is not about like being an expert in AI. It's more about being an expert in your business domain and applying AI to it. And I expect lots of people and lots of developers are going to be in that category, in that new category that's emerging. And I'd say start playing with it. Like really go on GitHub, clone a sample, and start playing with it, and then fork it and do your own. So I'd say, but getting some practice is, I think, the important bit. And then if you're an AI expert today, I'd say start doing some fine-tuning or try creating your own models. Read the research papers about the smaller models that are being created. And there's lots of really fun stuff. Mark Russinovich, Azure CTO, at the last Ignite, he presented a paper that he wrote during his sabbatical where he's teaching a model for how to forget Harry Potter. So the goal was to, how do you make a model forget? And he worked with a researcher and found an algorithm to help a model forget something. There's lots of problems like that are like small size, pretty funny to work on, and there's a lot of things to be invented there.
So to keep it very short, just do it.
Yeah, just do it. Just get your hands into it and start coding.
Okay. Well,
everything is to be invented.
Thank you very much for that advice. You need to remind us also on those two authors of those books. Who are they?
Well, which ones?
Your sci-fi authors.
Oh, the sci-fi author. So Charlie Stross, I really love that author. He's British. Accelerando, I would highly advise reading him. And the other one I mentioned, I think, was Isaac Asimov from The Robots. Really, if you haven't read that, it's sci-fi from the 50s, but it's really awesome.
Okay. Well, thanks for also that advice. And we're thanking you for your time and looking forward to see what's actually going to happen in the next 6 months.
Hey, thanks.
Thank you,
I'm
Patrick.
looking forward to see what all of you create.
Thank you.